to be able to, for me to be able to teach you effective strategies to master your mindset. As I know a lot of times we talk about business strategy, right? We talk about business strategy and we talk about mindset, business strategy and mindset. Now, of course, both of those things are extremely, extremely important, right? But you need both of those. You need a strategy for your mindset as well as a strategy for your business, right? And that mindset strategy is where I come in. So you need both of those in order to create, right? And maintain a successful coaching and or consulting business. Well, any business, but I'm focusing on coaches and consultants, okay? So the idea is to be able to teach you how to create effective strategies in which to address, right, negative self-talk and those self-sabotaging behaviors that creep up from time to time, right? And we all know that they do. For some of us, it may be more frequent than others. For some of us, it may be more severe. You know, some of us have certain triggers, certain things that trigger our negative thought patterns, right? And they just go berserk, right? And because I'm pretty sure at one time or another, you've had a situation where you felt excited about something, maybe a particular idea, you shared it with someone and they kind of shot it down. And then before you know it, you were like all the way up here, you were excited about it, you were thrilled. And then it just oozes right on down, right? To the point where you're like, oh, maybe that wasn't a good idea. Oh, I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I should just forget that, right? And the thing of it is, it can happen just like that if you're not aware of your thoughts, if you're not aware of your mindset. So again, it's not that it never happens or that it's never, ever going to happen again. But the idea is to be prepared, is to get a strategy in place. And that's what I help women to do, to get strategies in place in order to be able to address those situations, right, that trigger you and start your negative thoughts and self-sabotaging behaviors kind of started flowing, almost like a river. And sometimes the thoughts happen so fast. You know, there's 1,000,001 thoughts that cross our mind. And even within the matter of a minute, we have so many different thoughts that shoot through our minds, right? And the thing of it is, it's just it's a practice of being more mindful of that. Because in order to be able to address it, you have to be mindful of it. You have to realize that it's happening. You have to acknowledge it, right? And then you can begin to put different strategies in place in order to address it. Okay, so that is the purpose of mastering your mindset and coming up with an effective mindset strategy, which is the purpose of the group, Mindset Mastery Incubator. We are developing strategies in which to develop, to be able to not allow that negative self-talk and those self-sabotaging behaviors basically to take over and allow you to become stuck, allow you to become stagnant, right? You know, allow you to give up or just not be consistent, right? And that negative self-talk also has an impact on how you show up in your business. Like some of us may have that negative self-talk and we still show up, but we don't show up appropriately, right? When I say show up appropriately, I mean, we don't show up consistently enough, or we don't show up as the expert that we are to be able to attract our ideal client to us, right? So you could be showing up, but if you're not showing up in the right way that you should be, then that's an issue as well. Okay, so that's the purpose of the group. So that's why I have that scrolling at the bottom there. So I want to let you know about that. Also, again, tag a coach, tag a consultant, share this video out, okay? And I wanted to make an announcement. You know, every second and fourth Sunday of the month, I do A Queen's Roundtable Show, which I interview a different entrepreneur. They come on the show and we just talk openly and honestly about entrepreneurship, the ups and the downs, and they share with us at least one challenge that they have gone through and how they have effectively addressed that challenge. And we end on an education note where they're giving you specific tools and techniques that you can walk away with and be able to start implementing them in your business, right? In your business, your mindset, to everything is geared towards bettering your business, to growing your business. And that's every second and fourth Sunday of the month at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're interested in being a guest, come on, send your application in. So what you would need to do is actually go to that link that says to be a guest. And it's on my Linktree. It's one of my Linktree links, as well as you can get to it on my business page, Realizing Your Potential 123, as well as on my personal page. There's also a link there for being a guest. The next announcement is I have the 8 Queens Roundtable Quarterly Symposium. Hey, right? That's coming up in September. September the 20th is our target date. Again, that may change. It may move out to additional dates, just depending on how many speakers I end up deciding that I want to have and that I've decided to accept. So, but the date as it stands now is September the 20th. Again, if you were looking to network with other like-minded coaches and consultants, if you were looking to, expand your audience, to gain some leads, right? This is a good opportunity. You don't want to miss this. And last but not least, it's all virtual. So you don't have to get on a plane, go anywhere to speak. You don't have to stay anywhere in a hotel. It's all done virtually, right? So you just would, whenever you can, long as it's before the deadline date, of course, submit your video presentation and the other documents that go along with it, and you'll be good to go. So this is an excellent opportunity, okay? So don't miss out on that. If you are a speaker or like I said, you enjoy sharing your expertise. So now as far as this evening, the topic for tonight is effective strategies to address fear of failure. Lord have mercy. Effective strategies. Hang on, I was doing something there. I don't think I want to do that. Effective strategies in which to address fear of failure. Okay, so now we all have dealt with fear of failure, I'm sure, right? We've all dealt with fear of failure. So it's nothing new under the sun. Sometimes we may be fearful of, what people, the type of response we're going to get, right? What people are going to say, what people are going to think about what we're doing. Sometimes we just fear plain old unknown, right? We don't know how it's going to turn out. We don't know how it's going to work out. So we feel very uneasy about that. There's a certain amount of anxiety for a lot of us that goes with that unknown, not knowing what to expect, okay? Some of us fear success, right? Some of us fear success. That's like, the opposite of fear and failure. Some of us fear, what if it actually works out? Am I going to be able to handle it? Am I going to be able to uphold my end of the deal, right? That's really what it boils down to. So there's all sorts of reasons behind the whole idea of fear of failure, right? But the commonality is that fear of failure can prevent you from showing up, right? You can basically defeat yourself before you even get started. You'll be defeated before you even get started if you allow it to take hold, right? So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Some effective strategies that you can use in order to address fear of failure. So first, of course, we have to be able to acknowledge it. And I always start there, because if you don't acknowledge something as a problem or, that there's an issue, then how are you going to even work towards trying to resolve it? That's almost like an employer, it's like an employer saying that, or an employee saying that, oh, there's a particular problem with this. I don't know. Let's just say with the way we fill out our timesheets, right? and we want to address it. But if the employer doesn't feel that there's a problem with the timesheets, then they're not going to work to address it. They're not going to even be trying to identify what the problem is, much less trying to figure out how to rectify it, because they have yet, or reluctant, whatever the case is, they are not admitting or acknowledging it to be a problem, right? So first of all, you have to be aware, ladies, I'm telling you. And a lot of this, I know you hear a lot of coaches talking about journaling, and I tend to talk about it as well. It is an excellent way to really figure out what's going on, right? And really like lay all your feelings out there. Okay. So the first step is to acknowledge. And I'll say journaling, maybe that's not for everybody. Maybe some people meditate. I don't know. Maybe some people just kind of, maybe not necessarily meditate, right? But maybe sit to themselves and just kind of think about some things, maybe go over the, their thoughts or their happenings for the day or what they plan on doing tomorrow, and just kind of really assessing their feelings. Some people do that. And like I said, people do it in different ways. But the bottom line is you have to be aware of it. You have to be aware of this fear. Because if you're not, like I said, you can't address it. And sometimes some things that are really fear-based, that base emotion is fear, we don't see it as that. And that's another issue. And that's another piece of that, being able to identify it properly, is knowing, calling it for what it is, right? Like, for example, the first thing that comes to my mind is perfectionism. A lot of people say, I can't release this webinar because it's not, it's not perfect. There's still some finishing touches I have to add to it, right? Does any of that sound familiar? I don't care if it's a webinar, if it's a podcast, if it's a virtual summit, it's a book. I don't care what it is, right? What I'm talking about is that whole piece about you still working on it. You're still working on it. It's still cooking. It's still baking. It's not ready, right? Now, that whole piece about perfectionism and it not being ready and not wanting to release it, that could be fear. That could be the fear of, going back to what I said in the beginning, effective. Okay, I had to stop my Instagram video, y'all. Okay, so that could be fear, right? So check this out. So let's say we go back to thinking about the different things people fear. So in this situation of the whole being, being perfect, this product is not perfect, I can't release it yet, right? You fear, right, people's response to it. And I'm just rolling off just a whole host of things, because I'm a recovering perfectionist, okay? And, so trust and believe, I know what it's like to feel something has to be perfect. Okay, so you go through, well, what are people going to think about it? Is it going to seem like it's professional? Are people going to think it's professional? Are people going to what are people's perceptions going to be of this program that I'm going to release? Right? What are they going to think about it? Are they going to think like, oh, she don't know enough to be putting that program out? Or are they going to be maybe looking at my grammar, saying that, it's not grammatically correct, or I didn't use the right colors on my flyer, whatever. The flyer, the images itself doesn't look professional, whatever the case is, right? Behind that is that fear of what people are going to think about it. What are people going to have to say? What are people going to have to say about this product that I'm launching? What are they going to have to say about it? So that's that fear piece. So I mentioned that because in perfectionism, like I said, because I suffered with that for a very long time, that's the first thing that came to my mind. That's why I said, be clear. When we're talking about being in that acknowledgement phase, acknowledging and accepting it to be an issue. I know a lot of times I don't like to use the word problem, but you have to accept it to be a situation that's not beneficial, that you need to change. It's a not beneficial situation that you need to change, right? And if you are putting it or labeling it as something else that's more acceptable, then what happens? You don't deal with it. You don't acknowledge it. You don't change it. Okay? So that's why I brought that up. So when we're looking at under that umbrella of acknowledging it for what it really is, you got to be honest with yourself. Like I said, and there's some other things I'm sure if I thought about it, I could probably come up with some other things, but perfectionism, that is like on the tip of my tongue. Because people often say, I just want a finished product, right? I just want everything to be right, which of course we all do. But there's a fine line between wanting to deliver a professional, polished product and you just continuously, oh, it's not ready. Oh, it's not ready. I can't put it out yet. I can't put it out yet, right? There's a difference between trying to do the best you can with what you have and what you know at that time versus, just stalling out. Oh, it's still not ready. Oh, it's still not ready. Oh, well, what about this? Or what about that? What if this? What if that? Right? So that's up to you to take a look at that and be honest with yourself about, am I really fearful that people are going to say, oh, she don't know what she's talking about? And this stuff comes easy for me because trust and believe I have been there. People, oh, she don't know what she's talking about. Who is she to put this program out? What she know about this? What's she going to teach me? I'm old enough to be her mother. Well, people ain't normally say that about me, but because, I'm old enough to be your mother, but I'm just saying, like, let's say if you're a younger entrepreneur, maybe in your mid to late 30s, I'm pretty sure a lot of people say that, oh, I can't learn nothing from her. She don't know what she's talking about. She ain't even been on this earth that long, right? So all of those different types of, what's this person gonna say? Are they gonna validate me? Are they gonna think that I have something worthwhile saying? What are they gonna think about the way I put my product out? And I don't care if it's what they're going to think about how much I priced it at, or the colors I used, or what my logo looks like, or how I looked when I showed up to do the webinar, whatever, right? So you have to ask yourself and be honest with yourself, is what's really behind that perfectionism? Is it really masking? Is fear masking itself as perfectionism? Okay, so that's identifying. The second piece is, once you identify it, roll it through. Now, you know what I mean when I say roll it through? What I mean is think it all the way through. What's the worst case scenario here? I mean, really, what's the worst case scenario? What I mean is, if you put that out, let's say you've been working on this webinar and you've been holding it, oh, it's not ready, it's not ready. If you put that webinar out tomorrow, what is the worst case scenario? Like, what's the quote unquote, what you would fear most about it? And I say run it. And when I say run it, I mean run it all the way out. So you put it out. What is the worst? What is your biggest fear about it? Is it that you fear no one's going to sign up? Let's leave it there, because I think that's a big one for a lot of us. And then after that, we probably get into, oh, well, what about the content? And, what are people going to think about my image? And do people really think I have something worthy of saying? And are people going to want to listen to me, right? But so let's start off with the first one. Are people going to want it? Are people going to buy it? Are they going to comment on it? Are they going to like it? Are they going to love it? Are they going to tell their friends about it? Right? That's a big one. Are people going to like it? Now, when I say run it out, I mean the worst thing that could happen, let's just say based on that number one fear, are people going to like it, is no one will buy it. No one will like it and no one will buy it. Let's just say. So when that happens, you have to think, is that going to crush you? Is that going to be the end? If you had a tent or a little shop, are you just going to, put the close sign on the door, or, board the door up and just walk away? Is that it? Is it poof? It goes up in smoke and that's it? You know what I mean? So that's what I mean when I say walk it all the way through, walk it out, right? Whatever that fear is, first of all, acknowledging, accepting that it's fear and however it's masking itself, and then walk out that least desired fear, or that that's not the right wording. Walk out the most desire, or the how do I say that? Y'all know what I'm trying to say. Whatever the thing is that you fear the most about it, like walk it out as if you put it out and that thing that you feared the most happened. So I use that suggestion of, let's just say no one bought, no one liked it, nobody, it was almost like you ain't put out nothing, right? Now, if that happens, is that going to destroy you? If you're really passionate, right? And you really know you have a good product and you really believe in yourself, you believe in the transformation that you provide. And especially if you've been there and done that, you know that transformation. You are a living testimony of that transformation. So you believe it. So does that mean you just going to close up shop because you put out one webinar and no one signed up? You know, so when you look at it like that, and this is just one of the strategies. If you look at it like that, you'd be like, no, you think to yourself, you say, well, yeah, I'd be surprised, or maybe I'd be hurt, or I don't know, whatever feelings you have. But are you going to give up? Are you just going to close up shop? Just, I don't know, just get off of Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. That's it. Boom, boom, boom. I'm done. I don't think so. 9 times out of 10, I think the answer is no. If the answer is yes, then you don't have a strong enough why. Then maybe you need to be doing something that you feel more aligned with, that you feel more purposeful with. Because something that you feel is your purpose, if you're walking in your purpose and you really believe you have a strong why or whys behind doing this, you're not going to close up shop that easy. So if they don't like it, nobody bites, okay. I'm still me. I still do provide this particular transformation, right? You know, it doesn't negate you or anything that you're doing or anything that you deliver. Okay, so that's the first thing, is to walk it out. What's the worst case scenario? And you know you'll come back from that. You'll get over it. Okay. Secondly, is look at it like it's an experiment. Okay. Anything you do as an entrepreneur, and I know I talk about this a lot in terms of going outside of your comfort zone, right? And what I mean about going outside of your comfort zone is that you're constantly trying new things. You know, you were constantly, let me try this program over here. You know, like maybe going through, like if you stream live all the time, I'm pretty sure you done tried StreamYard, you done use Zoom, you've used Be Live, you know, some other ones, right? So as an entrepreneur, we're always trying different things. We're always trying different software to see if that works out best for us. We utilize different social media platforms to see where people engage more with our content, right? And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm just throwing that out there. Excuse me, I'm just throwing those things out there because that's what I thought of off the top of my head. But we're always trying something new. So look at it like an experiment, right? So you have to look at it and say to yourself, okay, no one responded. Is it because maybe I didn't put it out in front of my ideal audience or my ideal clients? Is it because maybe I need to work on my messaging? Is it that I didn't allow it enough time? Like maybe I put it out and I only had like 3 days to advertise? Is it because I was going to say something, just left me. We talked about, is it in front of your ideal client? The messaging, you know, like, is the wording right? Is this wording appropriate for your clients? Does the wording that you use, does that resonate with your clients? Now, of course, all of that goes into marketing. And of course, that's not my area of expertise, but I'm just throwing those suggestions out there because it could be a number of things, a number of reasons why people didn't sign up for that webinar. It could be a number of reasons why, you know. So when you do something, look at it as if it's an experiment. You have tried an experiment, right? And it did not produce the results that you wanted it to produce. So you have to go back to the drawing board and modify some things and change some things. And sometimes you may not know exactly what it was, but sometimes if you isolate, you know, like maybe if you bring it back in, maybe don't change the wording, but you change the amount of time that you spend advertising it, and maybe you'll see a difference. Maybe if you advertise it in this area versus this area, you may see a difference, right? And then you can just say, okay, so you know what? It worked best when I advertised it, I don't know, early in the morning on LinkedIn, just throwing something out there, right? So it's like an experiment, and you're just going to observe what works and what doesn't. Like I said, sometimes in the very beginning, you may not have as much to work with, right? Because of the fact that people don't respond, you can't really get that feedback. But if you do get some people to respond, or even if you solicited other people to respond and say, hey, you know, is this ad clear? Is it clearly written? Do you understand what you're going to get? Is it easy to read? You know, just asking different things, right? So that's an opportunity to learn and to grow. And that way you can kind of go back to your workshop, so to speak, and change it up and make some modifications and put it back out. You know, put it back out and keep doing it, keep changing, keep modifying until, because each time, hopefully, right, each time you're going to get closer and closer to that desired result. And that way, you know, okay, so like on a little checklist, okay, this worked, so we're going to keep that. This didn't work, we're not going to do that. This worked, we're going to do that, right? So it's not going to happen overnight. But if you go into it with that mindset of looking at it like an experiment and not just automatically, you know, thinking that automatically, I don't know, 1,000 people, let's just say, are going to sign up for the webinar. You know, maybe they might. But, you know, you're going into it with that idea. Go into it with the idea that this is an experiment, and I'm going to, regardless, it's going to yield a result. It's going to yield a result. And from that result, you are going to be able to tweak it and modify it and make some changes, right, to be able to produce a better result, right? So, you know, it's all kind of in trial and error. You know, now, of course, even when you work with your business strategists, they're going to give you different ideas. You know, you might institute this idea first, and then you might try this one over here. You know, maybe you might do some visual advertising versus some, you know, audio. I mean, visual as in, you know, like flyers, graphics, and then maybe audio like a live video, you know, something like that. And just see maybe which resonates more with your audience. Or maybe where your audience is, maybe on those different platforms, they receive the information differently. You know, so it's all about actually looking, seeing what works and seeing what doesn't work. And of course, actually asking people what they want, you know, what their expectations are, you know, things along those lines. So when you think about that fear of failure, first thing I want you to do is to acknowledge it, like really see, really call it for what it is. Okay. And like I said, sometimes fear can mask itself as other things, but you got to be real with yourself. You have to be in tune with yourself, and you have to be honest with yourself. So once you identify, you know, and acknowledge it, then, like I said, after that, you can begin putting together different strategies. But for now, we're going to work on acknowledging it, right? And actually accepting it. And then we're going to move into looking at it as a result. I knew they was going to call as soon as I got on here. We're going to look at it as I'll come busting in here in a minute. Yep, there it is. Okay, there we go. So look at it, like I said, to acknowledge it, and then move from that to what's your, well, I'm sorry, but before we get to the result part, to acknowledge it. And then the other one was walk it out. When I said walk it out, I meant run it all the way. Envision the least desired result or what you're most fearful of and walk that out. And then once you really think about that, you're like, well, if that happens, I'm not going to really like it. I'm not going to be jumping up and down for it, but it ain't going to stop me. Don't mean I'm going to close up shop. Right? So walk it out. And then the third one I mentioned here tonight was go into it with the idea that this is an experiment, right? This is an experiment. I'm going to change it. I'm going to modify it accordingly. I'm going to learn as I go along, right? I'm going to be flexible. I'm going to take input in from others in terms of how they perceived it, right? And be able to change and modify to eventually get, or as I go along, to get closer and closer to that desired result, right? So it's an experiment, and don't look at it as you failed or it flopped or whatever, right? Because the thing of it is, you did it, you put it out there, and even just for even getting the knowledge on the back end, the knowledge of how to do it, the knowledge of how to, let's say that was your first webinar, how to even do a webinar. Even though the webinar itself didn't yield, 1,000 participants or 1,000 people didn't sign up, but you had an opportunity to do it. So now that's under your belt. You know how to do a webinar. Now, of course, programs update, things change and all of that, but you still know the basics of how to get a webinar out, how to do it from the ground up, right? And you wouldn't have had that if you hadn't have done it. So you're going to have that practical experience, and no one can take that away from you. And then, like I said, the other piece of that is looking at it. Don't become too attached to the outcome. Look at it like it's an experiment. I'm going to learn from this, whether it's some desirable things or some things I'm like, oh, I'm so happy about, or maybe I'm not so happy, right? Maybe you did something and people were like, oh, we didn't like that platform. That was a very confusing platform and it wasn't easy to use, right? So you know what? For next time. For next time, right? So look at it like an experiment. You are going to see, actually, like I said, not in a success or failure way, but in a way of it produced a particular result, because that it will do, right? And once you get that result, then you can go ahead and lay everything out on the table and actually take a look at everything and begin to see what worked, what didn't work, or what you want to try differently. And do it again. Like I said, take it back into the shop, tweak it, modify it, put it right back out there, switch it up, put it right back out there. And then, see what happens then. So those are some strategies that I wanted to mention to you in terms of how to effectively address fear of failure, so that it does not cause you to quit, cause you to become stagnant, cause you to become immobilized, and or cause you to not show up consistently or the way that you should, the way that you know that you should, in order to, because you got to show up. You have to show up, and you have to show up in a positive way to bring your audience to you. There's no way around it. Whether you're doing audio, whether you're doing videos or you're doing live posts, you have to show up. Okay. And I don't want fear of failing to prevent you from doing that. All right. So again, I'm Jacqueline Kabah Harrison. I am a confidence and success coach. What I do is I specifically work with coaches and consultants and help them to create effective strategies in which to address negative self-talk and those self-sabotaging behaviors that prevent them from leveling up their business, or prevents them from creating a good foundation in their business, as well as growing their business at the rate that they want to. Okay, so that's what I do.